again to the channel. Just going to have a quick slurp of coffee before we start. Ooh, good stuff, quite strong. Brendan Ransom, watch out. No, only joking, Brendan, I'm sure your coffee is far superior, but this is still pretty good. And just a chance to show off the channel merch. Okay, so before we start, a quick channel update. Lots going on behind the scenes. Working on 2 or 3 vlogs to be coming out, including one for a mine shoot where I demonstrate rise and fall on the front standard of the 4x5. Got another one where I'm using the digital, and another one where I'm using the Bronica. Also, a quick update on the Bronica. Hand grip is working really well, it's handling beautifully. Added another back, and the purpose of that is so I can take both colour and black and white film with me on locations, so I don't have to choose in advance which will work. There's lots of scanning and developing and processing going on, so that's why I've been relatively quiet. 3 more films arrived back yesterday, ready to be scanned. These are Portra 400, which I acquired with the Bronica. Very good actually, considering their cost. They look all right, and I'll be talking about those in another session, because I pushed myself slightly out of my comfort zone taking pictures of people, because I'm normally a landscape natural history type shooter. That's quite fun, and seriously I'm really enjoying my photography. I think the film side has energized me, and it's not just energized the film side, it's energized the digital side. So I've got all sorts of locations planned for shoots. Hopefully going to be vlogging as well, and trying to sort of improve that side of it, because I'm well aware that it's not as good as some of the more polished efforts you might see. But stick with me, I'm getting better all the time. There's lots to talk about, and hopefully the knowledge I can share with you is also knowledge you can share back with me, and so on. So we're a community. Digital film, it's all about photography, it's all about the kind of photographs you want, whether they be fine art or portraits or nature, and anything that gives you joy and pleasure. And hopefully I'm coming around to getting things printed out and on walls, which is the ultimate aim. Here you can just see on screen image that I want to be talking about later on in this vlog. Just to my right is my father's old Mamiya 35mm camera, which I'm hoping might go back into service, but it's got 1 or 2 issues at the moment, particularly with the way the light meter is working. Otherwise it seems to be okay, apart from the usual decomposing seals, which can easily be replaced with a bit of graft and grind. So yes, channel update, hoping to update website and get stuff onto Instagram as well soon. But that's not the priority. The priority is enjoying the photography, and that's something I have been doing. Always 1 or 2 issues with things, and with film there's also user errors, which I'm pretty good at. Hopefully gradually ironing those out as we go along to get a reasonable standard of work consistently, which I think is the key. Okay, so that I think is enough preamble. I can perhaps add a few more bits in the roundup. So I'm going to show you the on location video now. Excuse the wind noise, it was very windy on that day, but I still got some results, and then I'll come back, I'll show you the final images and talk about 1 or 2 of the issues I encountered, which is the standard thing, and what I think went well. And overall I'm really pleased with the actual results. I feel I've got my workflow closer to what it should be. So, as they say in the business, roll VG. Probably can't hear this because it's so windy. We set up here a place called Luxulyan, in the Luxulyan Valley site, Unesco World Heritage Site, former quite heavy industry, mining,
set up with this chap. I think it was Sir Thomas Treffry. There's more stuff on the internet. I'll put a link below or in the corner. You can have a look. So fascinating. This is big stuff. There are leats, which are canals for the water everywhere. There's this gigantic water wheel which used to run from this spout there, drive these wheels, which would in turn take power to a tramway which ran all the way down the valley, which was how they got stuff into and out of this place onto the railway and to wherever it needed to be for processing and final use, whether it was clay for the China clay industry or tin or copper, whatever other metals they might have been mining. So I'm going to try and take an image of these huge gear wheels just to start with. Problem here is that I'm at a bit of an angle, so I just need to be careful about what's in focus and what's not. I'm going to try some front swing on the standard just to align that plane of focus that way, if you see what I mean. So twist this towards me, and because I'm also leaning forward, I might just try and do a bit of front tilt as well, so to try and bring it slightly more, but I don't think there's too much scope because it's all in all directions. So that, as long as I put a small enough aperture, we should be okay. So as ever, I'll take two images, one as a safety image at a different exposure, probably one stop brighter than measured. So out with the Pentax spot meter, and let's see what we've got. I've got HP5 loaded in my film holders, so that should give us, I would guess, about a 15 for the F32 or thereabouts. Let's see. So all set up, shutter tested, camera, a tiny degree of front swing, tiny degree of front tilt, quarter of a second and half a second between F22 and F32. 2 sheets of HP5, rating them at standard rating, and let's see what we get from this. Right, so here we are at location 2. I'm going to have to hurry because I think it's going to start raining any second. We're all set up. We're going to do 2 exposures, 1 second and a half a second at F45, trying to get maximum depth of field. We've got no risk of getting the camera getting blown away by the wind. We're behind these massive stone walls, and they are massive. They're like an Inca temple, this place, basically. And there's endless scope for images taken here. Love the fresh green of the ferns. Perhaps a green filter for a bit of extra contrast would be good. I think another time this view would be quite a nice one. I think that requires a bit of a wider angle lens than I have on. That's on the shopping list. So there we go. These gear wheels with the fern just looking sort of fantastically forlorn. Right, let's get on with it.
Okay, so I hope you liked or at least could follow that. Again, apologies for the wind noise, particularly at the beginning. As you can see, it was very windy, and yet when I looked at the images, which are now on screen, so we've got the first one to my right there on my secondary monitor, that this is the unedited version, just lightly cropped, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. The only real difficulty here is the quite large area of iron rail that was present. I couldn't get any closer, and on reflection, looking at it, I think I might have been able to use some front shift of the standard to the left. Perhaps more on that in another video on using movements with a 4.5 camera. That is quite an abstruse subject in itself, but nonetheless the rest of the movement seemed to have worked fairly well. So looking at this and zooming in, it's pretty well in focus in the plane I want, which is across the axle of this giant gear wheel, and it is a giant. That's about 10 feet across. So this is a piece of heavy engineering. It was attached to a giant water wheel which ran all the services for this particular operation. So that's the unedited version. You can also see in the background around this tree here that it was blowing, so it's really softened that, and actually I quite like that. That has taken some of the detail out of this background. It's become very fluffy and wavy, so that actually was a bonus of the wind blowing like that. It's almost like it was a misty day, which of course it actually wasn't. So that's your unedited version, first shot. And this is one which I have edited. Again, I haven't done anything drastic to it. There have been some edits to this portion of the image to bring it down because it's quite bright, and it is still quite bright, and I notice there's a bright area over here too, so I may bring that back down too. It always looks slightly different on the secondary monitor because this one is color calibrated and this one isn't. So this one tends to look a bit more punchy and bright, but then again it doesn't always accurately reflect what's actually there. Again, a fantastic amounts of detail with this. As you can see, you know, we get right in there and look at that sort of lovely sort of patination on the, if that's the one, the decay, the rust on there, and it's in beautiful detail and sharp really everywhere that I want it to be. So that's good news. So that's the first exposure. So there was 2 shots, and what I do is I always take 2 versions of every one, and this is standard operating procedure with 4:5 film, because although it's an expensive business to use 2 sheets of film when you should use 1, the risk is if something or anything goes wrong, you've wasted an awful lot of time and effort and money. So good backup procedure to do another sheet. In this case, what I tend to do is vary the exposure by 1 stop, so either 1 stop over or 1 stop under. And so the second sheet was this one, which is the 1 stop under, and that has just given a little bit more detail in the shadow. So that's the unedited version, and this is the edited version. Again, same edits applied to both, because that's one thing you can do in Lightroom by syncing things, so you've got a consistent edit. Again, maybe some more tweaks, but actually this is quite a printable image at the moment. I'm liking it. It gives that flavour of industrial decay, and the 4:5 film really does bring out all that sort of crunchy detail. I haven't over sharpened, I haven't applied too much texture or clarity. You don't actually need to with this. It's all in there. So moving on to the second sheet of second exposure, where we're down in the more protected area where the wind doesn't affect you. So for a different composition in here, you can see the unedited version, and this first sheet you can see has quite clearly got a light leak, and that was probably user error of some sort, either loading the film or unloading it. I don't think it's a light leak in the camera, although it's always worth keeping an eye on these things to see if this consistently occurs, and perhaps it might be the film holder, but I think it's probably user error, and that's not too uncommon. Now it is actually a rescuable thing because it's just reduced the contrast and brightened it up. It hasn't completely gone white, so if I was dependent on this, I would be able to get something out of it. And this is an edited version, and it doesn't look too bad. However, because there was a second sheet, and again 1 stop difference in exposure, there I've got something to back up which doesn't really need that same amount of work. And there is a tiny hint of maybe a light leak to the right, but on the other hand, it could have well have been the direction the light was coming from, which was behind, and there was a gap in the wall behind me, so it's possible that that's to do with that. But this now edited, and really again I've just applied some selective edits to darken down the sort of top corners and a couple of areas, just to bring out a little bit of extra texture and clarity. But really the picture is complete as is. I like it very much. It's got a nice balance of compositions. You've got the axle coming in from the right, pointing into the middle, and you've got the ferns clothing it in graceful softness, and everything's all nice and sharp, and there's oodles of detail. So if we go into the develop module and I show you what this looks like close up, you can just see all that glorious detail, the ferns crisply outlined, the lichens, the moss, and there's a fair bit of detail in the shadows too. So I'm quite happy with that. Next task will be to get that printed out, see what it looks like. Oh, I've just put a little bit of a tint on there for the highlights and the shadows. That of course is reversible, being Lightroom, so I could put any kind of coloration on it, and that's using the color gradation, color grading feature, which is really useful for that sort of thing. It's now a much more mature tool in Lightroom because they upgraded at the last major update. So I'll leave you with the pictures floating over a nice background soft sound. Thanks for watching, thanks for looking, liking, commenting. All feedback is most welcome. How can I improve things? What would help with the video technique? Certainly I think I need a vlogging camera or a better way of vlogging. Working on that, but other things, feedback welcome. Oh, big shout out to Shoot Film Like a Boss. I've been watching his channel devotedly recently. Excellent tutorials, very down to earth, great bloke, lovely manner. Ribsy also, he's also gets on with it, doesn't make too much fanciness out of it. There's none of this hipster style kind of reverence. It's just, come on, these are cameras, let's get out and shoot them and make some mistakes, enjoy what we're doing and play around with the medium, which is what it's all about. So for me, I've been really enjoying it. There are frustrations, you get things wrong, and you'll see that in other vlogs that I've got. You had processing problems, or something goes wrong which you didn't really know what went wrong. I think it's the unknown bit which is bothering. So anyway, enough of me blathering on. I'll see you again shortly. I hope this goes down well. Love to see you again soon. Bye for now.